Host and President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mrs. Toki Mabuhube, the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf, heads of government agencies and parastatals present, captains of industry, friends and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Let me thank you very much for the kind invitation to join you at this occasion. It's a special pleasure to be speaking once again at the Presidential Policy Dialogue of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And I must acknowledge the Chamber's consistency in championing issues and in making valuable contributions to public policy discourse. And to thank you also for this very positive spirit of engagement in our joint endeavour to promote national development. Nigeria, like all other countries, has been quite seriously impacted in various ways by the COVID-19 pandemic. And it has affected us all, either as households or as businesses. Contrary to earlier expectations, it is clear that the pandemic and its effects will remain with us for quite a while. So it has become clear that we have to adapt to it and adopt new ways of doing things. So it's for this event where we, so it is, for what we're doing today. Of course, we used to meet physically. Now we must deploy technology and meet electronically. In some ways, we have become more efficient and effective. Certainly, less time and less resources. We're deploying far less time and far less resources now to generate similar, if not better, impact and outcomes. So there is a silver lining somewhere in these dark clouds. I must say, that the LCCI, with its rich history since 1888, is probably the only indigenous organization of its kind to have been through a global pandemic, the Spanish influenza of 1918 to 1920. So I think we must ask you a few questions about how you coped then. You are probably the only ones who can give us any advice on how to cope now. But quite seriously, the fact that that industry and business survived even in those early days, with all the difficulties, surely must teach us something. And the spirit of innovation, the spirit of being creative, even in the most difficult times, catches the essence of our approach to the challenges of the current situation. The priority of the federal government in response to the economic challenges posed by COVID-19 is essentially to ward off a deep recession and to save jobs. And this we're hoping to do by an admixture of stimulus measures to support local businesses, the essence being to retain jobs and to ensure that we create the best possible circumstances for the most vulnerable in society. So to this end, the government developed the Economic Sustainability Plan with a stimulus package of 2.3 trillion to give fillip to the economy across various sectors. Now the size of the stimulus is about 1.5% of our national income, or GDP. Now this is not as large as we would have liked it to be, but it was the best we could do given existing fiscal and monetary constraints. And this is also based on the assumption that the price of crude will average somewhere around $30 to $40 per barrel throughout the year. We anticipate an economic growth of about at least minus 0.59% in 2020. You would already be familiar with the details of the Economic Sustainability Plan. In essence, it's intended to boost production, prevent business collapse, and provide liquidity. It will also promote the use of labor-intensive methods and direct labor interventions in key areas like agriculture, light manufacturing, housing construction, and facility maintenance, while increasing infrastructural investments in roads, in bridges, in solar power, and communications technologies. It's intended to do all this while we're extending protection to the poor and other vulnerable groups in our society, which of course means that we will be strengthening our social investment program and the social safety nets that we've created in the past 4 or 5 years. So the plan covers many economic and social sectors, and some of its key provisions include jobs for food, which is our agricultural program, to expand crop cultivation and create a targeted 5 million jobs, while guaranteeing uptake by processors, aggregators, and the government. So in all of what we're doing, you will notice whether it's housing, and we'll talk about housing, agriculture, and all that, part of the stimulus package of 2.3 million is to make government the buyer of last resort, or the purchaser of last resort. This is to ensure that that the whole question of demand, which of course is weak at the moment, is strengthened by the fact that government stands ready to be the purchaser of last resort, and whether it's with respect to agriculture or even with respect to even with respect to our housing program. So our jobs through homes is again also to create jobs and boost the national housing stock, and we hope in that process to encourage teams of young professionals and artisans in small businesses, and we'll also be using local products, cement, gravel, doors, tiles, windows, paint. Because of the large number of houses to be built, we'll be intentional in encouraging local manufacture of building materials. As a matter of fact, the whole point of these programs in the economic sustainability plan is to encourage local production, to use local products. One of the key issues that came up in our discussions at the Economic Sustainability Committee was our road building, for example. I mean, yes, we use a lot of bitumen at the moment. Almost all of the bitumen is imported. We're now trying to work very hard towards encouraging local production of bitumen. But in the meantime, we have limestone, we have cement. And so we're certainly going to be encouraging the building of our roads using concrete. So concrete roads is a very important part of our economic sustainability plan. And the Ministry of Works and Housing has been doing quite a bit of work in that respect. The plan also includes a solar home systems program, private solar companies providing modular solar-powered units. And our target is to provide, through the private sector of course, 5 million households with solar power, mostly in rural or underserved areas. Again, local assembly and or manufacture of solar equipment is a crucial objective. Manufacturing obviously cannot be done in the short term. There is no way that we can become manufacturers of all of these products. But NASENI, our government agency, is already doing quite a bit of work in the manufacture of solar panels. But we expect to start with assembly because we're doing 5 million homes. This is huge. And we've got so many expressions of interest for the setting up of solar equipment, assembly and manufacturing plants. So the plan also provides for supporting MSMEs, which are the backbone of the economy, to promote local production of pharmaceuticals, COVID-19 essentials like personal protective equipment, face masks, face shields, hand sanitizers. Again, here, government is the purchaser of last resort, because we want to encourage local industry to produce all of these pharmaceuticals and personal protective equipment. So we'll certainly be putting in the resources to enable this happen. The Honourable Minister of Investment, Trade and Industry has already spoken quite extensively about some of the support that is proposed under his ministry. So we also have a Future of Jobs program in technology, so that our creative youth are productively engaged while preparing our economy to provide digital services, including global outsourcing. So we're trying to see how we can take the advantage of these times, to support the digital sector, the digital industry in Nigeria, to be able to become a hub for outsourcing of services, outsourcing of especially engineering services, and not just the general services that we see, such as just being call attendants, and as troubleshooting support for technology companies. We hope that we will become a major player, especially in the technology and engineering outsourcing industry. A fundamental feature of the plan is the role of the private sector. So take agriculture, for instance. At 22% of GDP, agriculture continues to be the major non-oil contributor to the national economy. And Nigeria is deemed to be one of the richest potential sources of agricultural growth globally. So Nigerians are consuming more processed food than ever before. Yet the ratio of agro and food processing to primary agriculture is low, leading to imports. Whereas if agricultural produce is processed locally, it can meet domestic needs and can even be exported in large quantities abroad. There's no reason whatsoever why we cannot be net exporters of several of the agricultural products that our land and climate can sustain. The example of agriculture is useful for understanding the approach of energizing the entire value chain that we have taken in the sustainability plan. So in it, there are opportunities for small-scale farmers, just as we have created opportunities for large-scale outgrowers. There are opportunities for seed companies, just as there are opportunities for companies engaged in land clearing, especially in the southern parts of the country. Indeed, producers and manufacturers of fertilizers and harvesters are factored into the agricultural intervention, just as transporters, commodity exchanges, and processors will also find lots of opportunities for expansion. The key constraints in the agricultural value chain, such as lack of access to financing and post-harvest losses, will also be overcome because of the involvement of banks and large off-takers. So a lot of this planning has been going on for several months. And just as I said earlier, the federal government intends to be the purchaser of produce of last resort for use in the various programs that we have. So our homegrown school feeding will benefit, and also our strategic grain reserve will benefit from this produce. The same intention to dynamize the entire value chain is evident in the sectoral plans for housing, for solar power, for natural gas, amongst other things. Similarly, the plan has several opportunities for micro, small, and medium-scale businesses to expand their activities in manufacturing, in local production, and to participate in supply chain activities across various industrial and service sectors. It recognizes, nonetheless, that many businesses suffered serious losses during the lockdown. That was put in place to limit the spread. And of course, we all recognize that the lockdown was absolutely necessary. But the economic impact has been severe. So in addition to direct procurement, for example, of pharmaceutical and health products from small businesses, which I've mentioned earlier, the plan also offers support for small businesses in sectors that are badly affected by the pandemic, such as those in the hospitality industry, in aviation, in creative industry, in road transport, in tourism, private schools also, and of course export-related businesses. Such support includes direct payroll support to staff of qualifying employers for 3 months, and support for MSMEs on the reduction of registration fees and assisted e-registration. Most of these will reduce the barriers to entry to food and the drug sectors. I think that, of course, part of what we're hoping to achieve is, as we work through the various challenges of this period to also seek to impact some of the problems that we already had, some of the ease of doing business problems, some of the problems around, the difficult business environment and all of that. And we hope to be able to do so across the board, so that it's not just the big businesses that are favored, but MSMEs, which of course, as you know, are the engine of growth in most economies. Also pertinent is the enablement of banks to restructure loans and the provision of less onerous credit terms under the auspices of the central bank and the national development banks like the Bank of Industry, like NERSAL and Nexim. So we're working with the central bank. We're trying to ensure that we're able to put in place a system where many businesses that have taken loans will be able to restructure those loans. And this is an ongoing conversation. I'm sure many have taken advantage of the restructuring, especially those who borrowed from BOI or borrowed, even from some of the commercial banks. But this is an ongoing conversation. And we intend to be in a situation where the banks feel reasonably assured that allowing generous restructuring programs will be supported by the central bank, and that the central bank will not throw them under the bus. So I think this is something that we're consistently engaged with, and we're talking to the central bank about how to make things a lot easier. Similarly, the recent Finance Act 2019 exempts businesses, as you know, with a turnover of less than 25 million from companies' income tax, while those with a turnover of between 25 million and 100 million naira will only pay 20% CIT instead of 30%. The federal government also realizes the importance of infrastructure to underpin our national aspirations to be a producing country and to become less reliant on crude oil exports. However, given the scale of the needs and the limited resource base of government, it is clear that Nigeria needs its private sector to be involved in infrastructure development. So the plan does not dwell on major infrastructural development because of its time frame, but also because of ongoing and path-breaking infrastructural investments in railways, as well as in key projects under the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund. So the point I'm making is that already the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, as well as budget, have provided extensively for infrastructure. So you will notice in the plan that we don't dwell very much on infrastructure projects, aside from the ones that we've mentioned already. So already the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund has projects such as the Lagos-Ibadan Highway, the second Niger Bridge, the Abuja to Kano Road, the East-West Road, and the Mambila Hydroelectric Power Scheme. Greater emphasis was placed on the provision of rural roads to facilitate evacuation of agricultural produce, as well as public works and facilities maintenance because of their huge job creation potential. So you will see in the plan that we've emphasized a lot on rural roads, on supporting states to build rural roads because of the emphasis on agricultural production, and also the maintenance of roads, of existing roads. We recognize, of course, that that national infrastructural needs go beyond these mega projects and rural facilities, and that rural facilities are key to whatever it is that we do. And we very strongly believe that the private sector has a key role to play in the provision of infrastructure. So the plan calls for the leveraging of national savings, including pensions for such purposes. Our pension law allows for up to 1/5 of the pension fund assets to be invested in infrastructure. And I think that once necessary steps are taken to de-risk the use of these assets for such purposes, then national infrastructural investment will get a boost. So we're looking carefully at how we can leverage pension funds in a de-risked environment for investment in infrastructural development. And of course, this has to be done commercially. The Azura Edo power plant is a good example of how government can support and enable private sector provision of infrastructure. It's important for us as a nation to build on such successes, bearing in mind that this is a key responsibility of government to help de-risk such investments if they are to be made, if such investments are to be made. And I cite that example because it's the first major power plant, private power plant, which had the support of the World Bank, had the support activity going forward. Access to broadband facilities is key for software development, and for digital education, for e-commerce, for e-government, for internet banking, even video conferences such as this one. Broadband facilities are also vital if we are to be well positioned to take advantage of the cutting-edge developments in robotics, in 3D manufacturing, in artificial intelligence, and smart devices, even including cars. Improved broadband coverage will also open up opportunities in other sectors of the economy, including cloud platforms, digital financing services, digital skills and training. This is why in the plan, in the economic sustainability plan, we have paid particular attention to total broadband coverage. This is one of the key cross-cutting issues that we paid attention to, and which government intends to undertake, as robustly as possible. Not surprisingly, given the health-related origins of the economic crisis, also a key objective of the plan is to improve health outcomes. So we've accordingly built, of course, and when I say we, I speak also about state governments, isolation centers and laboratories. We've bought test kits and personal protective equipment and given incentives to health workers. For example, we've increased the number of funding for health or for healthcare, which is why the plan for universal health is a combination of public finance and money programs, including cash transfer schemes, the Empower program, the extension of the homegrown school feeding program to all states of the Federation, and the deepening of credit opportunities offered by the government enterprises and empowerment program, JEEP, such as market money, trader money, farmer money programs, etc. I think that the social investment is particularly important, especially in this period of the pandemic. And I want to thank many members of the private sector that have also contributed to supporting our efforts in social investment. This is a time when many are out of work. We already had significant unemployment problems without the pandemic. With the pandemic, it means that many who do daily paid work are experiencing great difficulty because of lockdowns and frequent disruptions. It also means that several people who are already well engaged in local industry are suffering. I mean, caterers, for example, are suffering. People in hospitality generally are suffering. Even mechanics, practically everyone who is engaged in these small businesses that have sustained our economy are suffering. So there's a need for us to provide a much more effective safety net. And this is one of the planned objectives of government, private sector. The LCCI is, of course, well aware of the commitment of the federal government to providing an enabling environment for business to thrive. And of course, the Honourable Minister has already spoken about the ways in which we have tried to improve the business environment. And our aim, of course, is to do this on a progressive basis and to continue to seek to improve the business environment. Now, I want to say that there's a lot to be done in improving the business environment in Nigeria. No, there's no question at all in my mind that there is a lot to be done, and we really need to spend more time. And when I say we, I'm talking about the public sector as well as the private sector, to look at creative ways of solving some of these problems. Some of the problems, of course, are problems of the environment. that we can deal with. Others are attitudinal problems, problems of governance and all of that. But I think that it's in our interest, it's in the interest of our economy to really work through these issues. And there are several issues. I think we will probably have more time to discuss that during the course of the interaction. But the chair of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce, Mrs. Mabubuje, has already touched on some of the challenges, that we're experiencing in the business environment. And this is not lost on the federal government at all. And we're, very committed to trying to resolve these problems and to see how we can create a much better environment for business. We're not, just as I said, we're not under any illusion that we can do this on our own. Everything that will be achieved will have to be done lockstep with the private sector. So I think that we really, in these times, I think what we've seen in these times is that Nigerians and Nigerian businesses can be creative and are being creative. The very quick transition from in-person meetings to Zoom meetings, virtual meetings of every kind, shows the tremendous resilience of the Nigerian business, and of course, the Nigerian people as a whole. And we've seen how very quickly we've adapted to practically all that's going on in our environment. But I think that the task ahead is challenging, and I believe very strongly that the LCCI, working with government and several other private sector organizations, we will together be able to resolve a lot of these issues, and that this period of the pandemic will provide us with the best opportunity to do something significant and to really make a difference in the Nigerian economy. I believe that this is the best possible time for us as a nation to do something about our business environment. We can take advantage of these difficulties. Clearly, there are major opportunities in this very difficult period, and I urge you to join us in doing whatever is necessary to ensure that not only do we sustain growth, keep jobs, but also that we modernize our economy and make this country a place where everybody, local and international, would like to do business. So again, just to thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you today. And I hope that we'll be able to say a bit more during the course of the interactions. Thank you.